Shredding through the tangled lies of Emotus's Department of Morale, like a Ripper docks bone shears, or maybe just a Ripper itself. We are the audio assault on all things your parents held dear, 665.66 UHMA Chemrat Radio.
And Gobbo, speaking of things that go bump in the night, I don't know about you, but the couple next to me in the hab, I don't know if they're just bad woodworkers or something, but they just keep going thump in the night. A lot of yelling, so there must be like, I don't know. That's why I say bad woodworkers.
Oh God, Emperor. Oh God, Emperor. Why have I messed up again?
Very religious couple.
Oh.
A relay station deep in the Frost Hollow has become the scene of an Arbites investigation after more than 6 weeks of silence. I wonder what they might find down there. Chucker, as the veteran of the Frost Hollow, you have any ideas what they might find?
Probably an obscene amount of warp dust and straws.
I was going to say a whole lot of nothing.
Speaking of warp dust and straws, I guess, razor ice storms are buffeting the hive once again, leading to massive temperature spikes here in the Underhive, as none of the damn heat has any place to vent to except right on us. We're toughing it out at Madam Bexy's Flack and Jack, where the only thing hotter than the weather is the entertainment, regardless of what you're looking at. As always, I am your slightly unhinged, mostly deranged, completely unmitigated master of plasma, Goblin King, joined today by my co-hosts. You know him, you love him, treating us to those amazing intros, the Mischief Chief of Marauder Alley, Marky.
Hello, everyone.
Bringing us out of the heat and regaling us with stories about just how cold it can get in the deep ice, the polar bear of the frost and fortitude himself, ChuckerFly.
What's up, everyone?
And currently spending more time drooling over the entertainment than listening to his co-hosts, the Caramel Mountain himself, Roogan.
I am the entertainment.
Dollar bills, y'all.
Only singles, please. I like it to look like more than it is.
No. We make it hail in the Underhive. We just throw handfuls of credits at you.
Even better.
Even better.
Even better. If I don't come back with welts, I don't want it.
You got to leave bruised one way or another.
I need to work for it.
Oh my God. Welcome to episode 61 of Under the Hive of Madness, part 3 of our faction coverage on Tyranids. As one of the newest threats to the Warhammer 40k universe, there is actually a lot of more recently created history and lore that we are touching on in this episode, meaning you guys are going to probably get a 3.5 episode next time as we split our roundtable on the Tyranids with a bit of deeper discussion on the many bioforms the race can field in battle.
We're 8 episodes away from greatness, Gobbo.
69. Oh.
Ooh.
Are we going to do something special for episode 69? That should be the Slanish episode. If we plan it right, it's the Slanish episode.
You guys await greatness.
So while we're covering a lot of the lore from the perspective of the Tyranids today, or at least the perspective of the Imperium when they're looking at the Tyranids, don't worry, we'll be back to talk about some of these events in more detail from other angles, either when we talk about the Space Marine chapters that are involved on the other side, or when we cover specific battles and planets in detail. Just like we're doing with our planet focus episodes or planet spotlight episodes and our heroes episodes, at some point we'll get into specific battles. We'll go into depth on things like the certain crusades. I definitely want to do some stuff on the Badab War, so stuff like that we'll definitely jump into in a little bit deeper tones. Before we jump into the second Tyrannic War and the meat of our episode today, I wanted to talk to you guys about just how deep and involved a lot of this Tyranid lore is that's being developed right now. It's kind of crazy since so much... I mean, the Tyranids are the biggest threat, like to everybody.
Extremely deep.
Yeah, very deep. Moloch deep.
Ooh.
So Chuck... Yeah, you had some hot takes apparently, right?
Yeah. So
It really grinds my gears.
You want to know what grinds my gears? Hey, so look, I'm a Space Marine player, and yeah, I take the flack for being it. You know, everybody's like, everybody's first army's a Space Marine army.
Where's my smallest violin?
That's it right there. That's it right there. Hey, here's the thing. First of all, everybody says Who wants to be a Space Marine? Every goddamn person that plays this game has fantasized about being 9 feet tall and tearing something in half like Captain America in a piece of wood.
You're
Let's
absolutely right. I have
let's get that
100% fantasized about being a Tyranid warrior
No,
several times.
No.
On different occasions.
See, then the second thing, the second thing is when you read the lore, because I've read different books, and yes, I'm very biased because I'm a Space Marine guy,
And you're old.
and I'm old. I get get my gears are grinding. First of all, Ultramarines are not the best. Get that straight. That's why they almost got wiped out. Second of all, I know you're going to touch on it today. We all agree the Blood Angels should just be wiped out. Like, let's just get that out of the way.
There you go, Marky, just for you.
I got it right here. You tried to play a violin. Play it, motherfucker.
It was.
Sad song and the words.
Well, all I'm going to say is when you read a lot more of the lore, which I know some of the listeners are actually into reading or listening to audiobooks.
Yeah,
Or
that's a new thing.
Or actually reading something on, written on parchment.
Dead tree.
Under candlelight.
Both
Yeah, you
both
tend to-
ways uphill in the snow
Space
during a heat
Marines.
wave.
Space Marines win most of the time. There you go.
So
And
there's a
Norn
reason.
Queens and Lysander,
Oh, here we go.
who's one of the greatest Space Marines of all times.
Gotta go get him his tin hat.
No, you don't need a tin hat, buddy. One of the greatest Space Marines of all times. Hey, you know what? It has it in an old edition book, and the entire 5th chapter got called back to handle a Nid invasion. And guess what? It didn't take the entire company. It just took Lysander and a bunch of Centurions, and they won the day. There you go.
So the main reason that happens, because this is it's interesting. It's
he's a
interesting you bring this
badass.
up. The main reason that happens is because the majority of the books are written from the perspective of the Space Marines.
Yeah.
So when you read the books that are about the Farseers, the Eldari are the best. When you read the books that are about the Necrons are the best.
Ooh,
Eldari
like
had their
Necrons.
chance, and so did the Necrons.
Wait, whoa! I still like
When
that.
you-
Relax over there.
When you read the books that focus on the orcs
I'll say Death Guard.
are the best. When you read the
Death Guard.
When you read the books based about the Gaunt's ghosts are the best. When you read the books about the Cadians are the best.
Actually, you read books about Guard, they want Space Marines to show up because Space Marines are the best.
Not if you read the Gaunt's Ghost books. If the Gaunt's Ghost books, they're happy when Space Marines show up, but they're also capable of killing Chaos Space Marines by their onesies.
I'm
That's
just
the
saying.
thing. Whenever
I know,
whenever
I
you
know. It's all
yeah,
the
whatever the perspective of it's the Warhammer 40k universe is a brilliant study in what that famous saying, what's the difference between a freedom fighter and a terrorist? It's whoever's writing the history, whoever writes the history books.
That's why the Imperium's the greatest.
Yeah, the Imperium
I thought he was
phrases
gonna say
everything
people-
and is them being the best.
They
But
are.
yeah, I'm glad it grinds your gears.
Death Guard's the best. Nurgle
So
would
that's-
never let.
Death
his
Guard had
followers-
their chance.
Well, there's.
Death Guard had their chance.
Hey, Chaos had its chance.
Don't make me put my thumb
They
in your mouth
lost.
again.
They lost at Terra.
Do not make me put my thumb in your
Oh,
mouth.
he's pulling out his violin again.
So the Space Marines, right? They all get wiped out. And they don't come back. It's a sad day.
You're gonna make shed a
They have
tear.
Imperial Fist, man.
They're all Imperial fists.
It's just
I mean, I do have to say,
He said-
Marky does have a point. If you wipe out my entire Nid army, we just make more Nids.
He always just make more Space Marines.
Nah, you run out of gene seed at some point, brother.
No, you don't.
Oh yeah, you do.
Read one of the old parchment novels.
Yeah, you do.
Get the scrolls out.
Oh, this Tyranid episode alone features at least 2 or 3 chapters that did
Bubba.
not survive.
Bubba.
Does it have the
that.
sights?
you ain't got no
The
genes.
Yeah.
sights?
Yep.
Are the sights one of them?
The Scythes the Scythes and the Lamenters almost got wiped out, but the Knights of Blood are gone.
The Scythes are actually in one of the novels that I've read about the Nids.
Firehawks.
Yeah, the Nids, the Nids are the biggest concentrated threat to everything in the galaxy, with the possible exception of orcs, and we'll talk about that today. So, Marky, you want to read our quote here? We'll start with the Second Tyrannic War against Hive Fleet Kraken.
Emperor
Alright,
bless his angels.
I got to get into my Tom voice.
Tom voice.
Hello, everyone. Sorry, excuse me. Hello, everyone. All right, I think I'm there. Following the defeat of Hive, sorry,
First day jitters.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, all right. Following the defeat of Hive Fleet Behemoth, some Imperial observers believe the Tyranid threat is over. Humanity has outlived countless such Xenos threats. They pointed out each destructive in their own right, yet ultimately minor in the grand scheme of the wider Imperium. Several centuries passed before this assumption was proved the worst sort of foolish optimism.
So at the onset of the second Tyranid invasion, the Imperium was forced to reassess the threat and admit how little they knew about the Tyranids. Hive Fleet Kraken, as it came to be known, did not advance in the same way that Behemoth had before it. Somebody sent me to a pronunciation thing and was like, your regional dialect sucks, fix it.
Beaumont.
Dividing its strength into a many tendrilled attack. Kraken attacked many planetary systems over a scattered territory and a coordinated and planned strategic attack, allowing the Shadow and the Warp to spread much further than it had in the previous war against Behemoth. This heightened Kraken's ability as wily ambush predators, their tactics favoring encircling and outflanking an enemy rather than a head-on brute force attack. It also delayed this new assault from reaching the Imperium at large. When the Imperium finally did muster a response, they declared the Second Tyrannic War to have begun. This threw Xenobiologists and strategists off, as many had believed that the defeat of Behemoth had ended the Xenos threat for good. Kraken's use of vanguard organisms changed the understanding of this threat. Planets were consumed in destabilizing terror attacks or civil wars before the main Tyranid force even arrived. New Tyranid bioforms burrowing under defensive walls and hardpoints that had been considered unbreakable by the Imperium up to that point. Kraken's split attention also allowed the Hive Fleet to hit more targets than the Imperium could defend, forcing the defenders to pick and choose which high-priority worlds needed to be saved, actions that allowed other worlds teeming with biomass to be slaughtered. Since the Tyranids need biomass over resources like those of a forge world, an aggregate world with a small population makes a very enticing target, while the Imperium may not value it as high, as it doesn't produce the weapons they feel they need to defend against the Xenos threat.
Sounds like they hit him with that koyan instead of that manka.
That's right.
Right. That I don't even know if I'm saying koyan.
I
don't know. I only
it.
play Tom's fucking Farsight, so I don't know what the other ones. How the other ones. I just know when he came down, he was like manka.
Yeah,
I'm like,
he
what?
mankas a lot.
I was like, what?
So with how the whole concept is with the Tyranids, so was Behemoth just like a scouting force to learn?
So Behemoth basically came in and brute forced their way into Ultramar as fast as they could.
That's what I'm saying. Like, so when they were defeated, pushed back, did the hive mind start thinking different and send in a different tendril with different tactics?
Basically, like, let's try something new. And this time they blanketed an area, not quite as big as Leviathan does later, but enough that it kind of forced the Imperium to realize like what the Tyranids were actually doing. I also thought it was interesting because I never really even thought about it, but like, you know, an agri world or a world with very little sentient life, like very little Imperium presence, but a lot of like fucking biomass, the Tyranids are going to go after that. And the Imperium in a lot of cases is going to be like, okay, we'll let that world fall. Not realizing that what they're really doing is feeding the war machine.
Yep. Feeding the war machine.
Yeah.
Now, in the lore, does it talk about how game related, how the different fleets are? Like
Yeah, so at the
they were more anti-psyker with Kraken.
yeah, so we'll talk about it's Kronos that's anti-psyker. We'll talk about the various Hive
Kronos.
fleets and their tactics towards the end of the episode. But
Yeah,
yeah,
shut
that
up.
we definitely get into a lot of those details. But yeah, Kronos kind of had to evolve to deal with the Great Rift and the and demons.
Bibbidi bobbidi boo.
Man, demon is a weird word today, apparently. So yeah, we'll talk
Amen.
about the fucking crazy ass shit they
Matt
do.
Damon.
So
So-
this, go ahead.
Are demons like, you know how they always spelled it? What is it, like DEAMONS?
Yeah,
Daemons. Is it daemons? Is it pronounced daemons though? Is
Um,
that like the Latin way to say it? Like
Yeah, so it's a Latin.
daemon.
It's a Latin word which means something greater than man, something between man and God. And it in Latin tradition, the original root word doesn't actually mean evil. It just means like higher thing, essentially, more powerful thing.
Matt Damon.
Yeah, like a Matt Damon.
Yeah, more powerful than us.
Heels to Jesus.
But yeah, a demon or daemon. I mean, most people just pronounce it demon because they act like demons. Demons and saints are kind of the way that the low Gothic would pronounce those words, even though it's spelled differently. In software, though, you call that part of artificial intelligence construct or potential artificial intelligence construct a daemon. That's a type of tool. That's why
Oh,
daemon
okay.
tools is called daemon tools, actually. But
Yeah, I was gonna say in Cyberpunk they call them daemons, right?
because they're going back a little bit more to that root word. But as we've seen time and again, depending on whether or not you're an American pronouncing GW stuff or a Brit pronouncing GW stuff, there's different pronunciation. So
Cetaceans.
there you go. Cetaceans.
We
Man, we're so fucking salty about cetaceans. Come up a lot.
Why not? Why wouldn't
This-
we be?
Yeah, right. The Second Tyrannic War saw the involvement of many Space Marine chapters, all of which were forced to fight in extremely desperate situations. While their valor and courage are undeniable and saved uncountable trillions, it wasn't without a horrific cost. The Scythes of the Emperor and the Lamenters were both devastated and pushed to the edge of distinction. The Knights of Eternity chapter was entirely wiped out. In a move no one understands, as it didn't match the tactics of the Hive Fleet to that point, the decisive battle ended up happening on Ichor 4. The Hive Fleet amassed all of its largest tendrils into one massive attack. While the move was unintelligible, it allowed the Imperium to muster a counterattack that changed the course of the war. During the conflict of Ichor 4, the Tyranids deployed bioforms and warriors that had not been yet encountered, including some of the first uses of biotitans. The arrival of Chapter Master Marius Kalgar, leading a massive Ultramarines force, proved to be the turning point in the conflict. The Tyranids were scoured from the planet and its surrounding system. Even under an Imperial victory, however, Ichor 4 was reduced to a wasteland, even though the main strength of the fleet had been defeated. Many splinters and minor tendrils scattered, far from entirely removed from the fight. So, Chuck, it is pretty interesting that you pointed out and picked on the Ultramarines, because the Ultramarines are definitely the ones that are always talked about winning the day
Yeah,
and all of
well,
the Tyranid stuff.
Well, yeah, they're like everybody says. They're the.
Yeah, the boys in blue.
I love that he has a mace.
That's such an awesome picture.
It's just he's beating on shit.
We covered that at the end of last episode
Yeah.
too. Like, the Tyranids aren't confined to the weapons that you see on the models. The reason that the weapons that you get in the model line are the weapons that are on the Tyranid is because that's the way that the hive mind normally deploys them. That's the most used. But there's nothing that says in lore anyway that a gene stealer couldn't have an impaler cannon or something else. The likelihood is they're not going to, because gene stealers aren't used that way by the hive mind, but in a pinch, they're going to throw weapons onto a gene stealer.
Is Ultramarine be good stick?
Right? In contrast, the Eldari craft world of Eoden had a greater forewarning of the Hive Fleet's oncoming assault. Their Farseers glimpsed the onrushing hunger of gnashing teeth, while Rangers brought back first-hand accounts of the aliens. Craft worlds, however, are immense and stately crafts that rely on the use of webways to travel through the warp, not their own power. So unlike an Imperium ship, which can activate a Geller field and dip into the warp, craft worlds can't do that unless they're near or in or have access to a webway gate that's big enough to fit them. and it soon became obvious that the Eoden needed to brace for an oncoming onslaught, as evasion or escape wasn't possible. Farseer Kellamon, Eoden's leader and most powerful seer, set the entire craft world along the path to war. Every citizen donning the armor of the Guardian, all aspect warriors and ships of Eoden's war fleets were recalled. Even the spirits of the dead were called upon to pilot the Wraith constructs and Wraith Knights of the craft world. The Tyranid swarm encircled the craft world and its defending war fleet. Eldari warships fought with breathtaking skill and grace, tearing apart wave after wave of attackers, filling the void with chunks of meat and drifting clouds of vaporized ichor. However, just as with the Imperium, one by one, the Yandin's ships fell silent, and eventually massive waves of Tyranids descended on the craft world. While the Eldari put up a hell of a defense and counterattack, thousands of Tyranids breached the crystal domes and winding corridors, battering down defensive line after defensive line of Guardians. All while bioforms stalked the softly lit corridors of the deeper craft world, slaughtering and ambushing anything they came across. Formerly beautiful Wraithbone corridors became gore-chunked carnal houses. Irreplaceable treasures saved from the core of the Eldari Empire itself during the fall were destroyed. Things like the Dome of Crystal Seers, the Forge of Val's Fury, and the Library of Sighs. Eventually, the Eldari dead outnumbered that of its living defenders. As the last embers of hope flickered and died, Prince Uriel, who had been living in exile from Eoden, returned unable to bear his homeworld's destruction. He led his Eldari Corsair fleet into the main body of the Hive fleet, gutting it and cutting what was left into bloody ribbons of void-scattered gore. He then boarded Eoden, wielding the Spear of Twilight, which is one of the 5 crone swords of Eldari myth, and took the Hive Tyrant that led the invasion swarm on in single combat. After the Hive Tyrant's defeat, his Corsairs and survivors of Eoden eradicated all traces of the Tyranids from the craft world's halls. Farseer Kellamon was found atop a mound of Tyranid corpses, dead. Prince Uriel earned the Eoden people's forgiveness with his selfless actions and was welcomed back. However, Kraken had claimed a mighty toll from the craft world, reducing it to a shadow of its former strength, heralding the slow decline of all that remained.
So this Library of Sighs, I mean, was it really a loss?
You just walk in and the books are like, ah. So Eoden had a lot of the once great empires, whatever you want to call like ancient wonders and treasures in it. I mean, they all do to a certain extent. But yeah, the Tyranids fucked Eoden. And we had talked about this in the Eldari episode, and it's interesting that the Tyranid book, the Tyranid Codex, the Tyranid lore puts it this way. The Tyranid lore is like, yes, Eoden is dying. But if you remember when we covered Eoden is recovered quite a bit. That like 25 or 35% of the ship has regrown already. There's just not people in it. The ship is healed, but there's not a lot of people in it. But Eoden now fights with a lot more Wraith constructs than other forces because of this, essentially.
Yeah. Like I said, they had their chance.
Oh, God, this man.
Wow.
Papa Nurgle's going to touch you soon.
He already is.
Papa Nurgle needs to stop touching his microphone stand.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Just adjusting all of this, man. All this 185 pounds of man.
What? 185. Gotcha.
So good.
All right, guys. It's time for a silly voice. So I came across a really fun chunk of lore in the book that's filled with all sorts of 40k gothic BS and techno medical jargon, and I want to read a snippet from it. The actual thing is like 4 pages long, and I cut out all except like 3 paragraphs just because they're fun. So I'm going to try my most ridiculous medical officer voice.
Better than what I could do.
Why do I? Yeah, but why do I picture you wearing a monocle and red latex gloves?
And if I had red latex gloves, I'd put them on right now, buddy.
I mean, yeah, that's creepy.
Inquisitorial reference 55301 X4DE Xenos. Tyranid Genos study, being an attempt to extrapolate the physiological and neuroalchemical autoprostination, the inherent nature and genealogic...
Oh my god.
The inherent nature and gynecological classificum of the Tyranid organism ex periovis lavorum, reference, parasite of Mortex, initial eradicatum scrofexium performed by your humble servant and Xenosophont, grade secundus, Latimer Bartholomew Junt the Second.
Yeah, you're more like the professor from Phineas and Ferb.
I'm trying, man. I don't even
I
know what that
love
guy
it.
sounds like. But
Just like that.
all right.
Sounds just like that. Lab coat and everything.
Ruminants exacto originatus. The xeno-organism that forms the subject of my latest study labors under the somewhat lurid appellation parasite of Mortrex. It seems apparent to me that while marginally informative from an astrocartographic perspective, this title surely coined by some overwrought militarum enlistee with precious little respect for suitable xenocategorization, representing a serpentine organism that puts one in mind of such subspecies as Rapicus anagisum, reference, ravener, these horrible degenerate words, or Bellatori tyrannus, reference, Tyranid warrior, how uninspired. This so-called parasite's primary method of locomotion is clearly provided by a pair of broad and membranous wings. Its periotheric trunk supports multiple chitin-sheathed defensive limbs, yet its most formidable biological armament lies in its barbed ovipositor. It is by means of this acute appendage that it appears to inject live victims with the true parasitic organism, a form of hypergestational Erodonus vermis, reference rippers, capable of devouring the host organism from within before erupting from their denuded cadaver. On its progenitorial genius, whence then originates the aerial venerator. Through the comparative organoanalysis, it is possible for the diligent scholar to establish genealogical linkage to other Tyranid bioforms, the better to extrapolate the creature's aptitudes and limitations. Such labors are, of course, hampered as always by the frustration papicity of verifiable certainties in relation to almost all aspects of the Tyranid's xenobiological makeup and additional methodology and so forth. Ex periovis larvum is certainly possessed of prodigious wingspan.
So-
Excuse me, I'm talking. And I'm sorry, man.
I thought you were done.
Almost. I got one more paragraph of this. This what the fuck? Like, there's so much like circular talk in there. I was like, I have to read. I have to read parts of this. Its prodigious wingspan, as I was saying, and envisages a notable lack of hind limbs with which to effect terrestrial preambulation. One can reasonably then draw atomical similarities to Voltanus voricterians, hoppy, as well as the Multicis sputus gargoyle and the Colossus ambradori, or Herodin, as these common folk like to say. Yet pursuit of such potential geno-comparative branches swiftly reveals such marked disparities in behavioral and morphological nature that further meaningful reference becomes patently fastidious. In conclusion, my Lady Inquisitor, when many months ago you set me on this endeavor, I truly believed it a rare honor, and yet as I come at last to deliver my findings to you, I must question how I so angered you as to be assigned to this dismal duty. So unnatural, so enigmatic, and unclean are the mysteries of the Tyranid that I consider both my faith and, yes, even my sanity to have been sorely tried. You ask me to provide you with insights that you might exploit in slaying these creatures, but I tell you, I have precious few to offer. These so-called parasites appear to diverge almost willfully from each archetype we have identified and attempt to fit them with. As to the matter of genealogical speculations and subspecies linkage and the implicit weakness therein, like so many before me, my lady, I am at an utter loss. One might hoist counter-empiric measures as being at least partially officious. Perhaps all-enclosing personal protective equipment is better used to prevent parasitification. But frankly, as humanity has done since the xenoform abomination set against us, I would counsel the use of overwhelming firepower coupled with staunch faith in the God Emperor Almighty. In short, their weakness could best be described as bullets. And in that field, my lady, you are far more an expert than I. Just the whole thing, like, and there's like 4 more paragraphs of that shit, and it's all like that. It's all like nerd rage. I was like, I have to read it.
So in Low Gothic, basically the cure is you call them bugs and wear your jimmies for protection.
Yep. It's strap in and shoot faster. There's really great segments of the codex and some of the side lore of just these like fucking magi biologist nerds getting mad. Because somebody asked them to define a termagant, and they're like, no, I can't. Like, what are you? Okay, here's a bunch of science words.
How do I defeat this?
Shoot it more often.
Armor piercing.
How do I protect myself?
Wear more armor. Like literally the end paragraph. Wear more armor, take more guns. Like,
so my favorite movie, as everyone knows,
Species
you guys are
Starship Troopers.
You guys are all.
What's your favorite movie?
You guys are all. Everybody listening is like Starship Troopers.
It's
Marky.
the sixth.
We know.
It's the 6th day.
We know.
The 7th day.
The 7th day.
The
Right?
7th day.
Starship Troopers.
I forced the wifey to watch it like a week or so ago
That's so
because
beautiful.
I was gonna say Matt's significant other had not seen it yet, so the movie
She's not perfect.
Heresy.
What?
was just, it just had to happen. So
Mine has even seen it.
Yours hates you, anyways.
And
Continue.
mine's even seen it.
My wife hates.
Well, now
the
she's seen
fucking-
it,
Like
though.
she fucking hates Starship Troopers. She says it's because she watched it when she was really young. Like her dad showed it to her, and she was like, "Yeah, it gave me nightmares," and I just hasn't liked it since.
That
I'm like,
movie,
that's no excuse.
that was a
So,
that's a nightmare movie.
apparently, well, yeah. I mean, dude.
Has she ever seen Aliens?
I haven't asked her.
Depending on how old you are when you see a movie, it can greatly change it. Like I was terrified of Yoda when I was a kid. Not even.
Yeah,
lying. I was terrified of Yoda.
I guess I had a different upbringing. I think I got taken as a small child to go see Aliens.
Yeah, my father-in-law.
I did not have a problem with aliens.
scarred
when I was a child.
my brother-in-law with Jurassic Park. Like he was
Ooh.
definitely afraid of like dinosaurs and dinosaur movies. I guess that's the only place you see dinosaurs is dinosaur
So I saw-
movies. But
I saw Jurassic. I saw Jurassic Park in the theaters, and when the lamb leg like smashes the top of the screen, like the first
Ooh.
jump scare,
it was
of the movie,
amazing.
my literal reaction was, "Man, I'm hungry," and I was like 7 or 8 when that.
You're like,
movie was
I
in
can
the
go for
theater.
some lamb
Yeah, I
right
was gonna
now.
say I could go for some lamb
I
right
can
now.
go for some lamb right now. That sounds really good.
Oh,
Man,
I love
Is it Gyro or Giro? Or
Gyro.
both wrong?
Hero.
Gyro.
Poo-poo caca.
Both are wrong. Gyro.
Okay, I was 11 when I saw that.
Hero?
So I was a little older.
Pee-pee poo-poo caca.
Okay. So
I'm trying to think of a movie that. Oh, but anyways, to leave
Starship Troopers,
Yeah, Starship Troopers.
medical jargon. Go.
Exactly. So just bringing it up as like a side thing. There's this back on our weeb shit. So there's this anime that I watched when I was a kid, very young,
Here we go.
Fucking
called
weeb shit.
Blue Gender.
Do I
assume-
want to search
Yeah,
this?
you can. Yeah.
Is it blue
I'm-
seed, not blue gender?
No, Blue Gender. It's
Seventh day.
I think it was in the 90s that it came out, maybe.
Safe to look at.
Yeah. I mean,
Wink.
all of the aliens, the aliens are like Tyranids. They're all bugs, right? And they have
They're all
this like
giant ass bugs.
Oh.
yeah, and they have this weak spot that looks like a big old
Hoo-ha.
kind of. So, do I say it? All right,
You're making Chuck breathe heavier. Hurry, just tell him.
Purity seal right here. It looks like a clitoris. It's a weak spot, and you have to shoot it
What is the weak spot?
to kill. It's like its brain almost, and it's weird because it does like this little weird suction cup thing. Like you guys know the
It's trying to get you.
They're like, oh, what's that, Miss Frizzle? And like, girl, that's a booty hole. Like that's what it looks
Oh,
like.
like
Yeah, it's like pulsating and like
Oh.
making sucking sounds and like gyrating in its head.
It's a sphincter, not a clitoris.
Well, I mean, but it kind of like I don't know the way that they
That thing right there.
yeah
Yeah, it's a sphincter.
yeah. But I mean, it kind of I
That's
don't know
kinda
for some
hot, yeah.
reason it just
Because
looks
it's
like
right because it's put right above a vertical mouth because people who draw anime are perverts.
exactly yeah, dude. So when the wifey saw it and she saw the first alien bug and it's like the little ass was gyrating and the mouth opened up, she's like, really? I'm like, just watch the first episode, all right?
Just make it through the first episode.
I was like, make it through. She's like, is this Starship Troopers? I'm like, no. It's not Starship Troopers.
I swear.
It's alien bugs. So I mean, I guess it kind of is Starship.
Similar.
Troopers. I was like, don't worry, it's got a love story. So it's
It's Starship Troopers.
just like Starship Troopers.
Yeah, she cheats on.
I told her, like, you can be my
I
Disney.
can't-
It's okay.
I can't find it, but there is this really like controversial D&D map that here it is. Yeah.
That was controversial.
Wink.
No.
Really?
No, so like
What's that?
when it
Right.
you honestly don't see it?
No.
You don't see it?
No,
There's
what
a
is that?
town, there's a town at the top and then there's a big wet lake.
What's
And
the
there's
town called?
There's a town right at the top.
What's the town called?
Wormpine.
Boring.
What
Goes on down.
Over where the asshole is, what's that town
What's
called?
that?
Is that Lake Town?
The
in the middle?
ruined Karen.
Oh.
Yeah, no, it was there was this whole like I can't remember. There's a much worse map where like it's all the trees and everything are colored. But there was this map that somebody had drawn for like a D&D map challenge, and like it had gotten high enough up before somebody had realized that like this dude had this person, I don't know if it was a dude, had literally drawn like an anatomical vagina and then
Yeah,
just turned
I could
everything into like
I could totally
map
see it. but,
details.
I could totally see it. I was just messing with you, but yeah, that's great.
it was like
It's great.
really there was like the Great Chasm and like all of these that is it, but that's like a tamer version of what it was. I can't find the original, and I'm not willing to type in the right things to Google because
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
sometimes we
Oops.
made
I
I work
bugs good.
I work for a toy company, and a couple of years ago we made a toy that got pretty far through the entire development process, and then myself and the art director like one day walked in, and like we put up a bunch of concepts on a board and all of this stuff, and we walked in and we both just start laughing, and I'm like, you see it, right? And he's like, yeah, we totally designed a dick.
Oh,
Like, we didn't fucking realize it, and then like for whatever reason just it hits you all of a sudden like, fuck, we
Oh, it
designed
hits
a
you.
dick.
Oh, nice.
You guys ever
And we-
see the original Little Mermaid cover where like all of the architecture
Yeah.
is
Looks like dicks.
yes,
Very very phallic.
yeah, phallic-y.
That
Yeah,
phallic?
Is that how you would say it?
That's how they write it in the Tyranid Codex.
that is definitely.
Just add a bunch of statistics
Yeah.
at the end of it.
Because, like, you'd see, like, those little videos. It's like, oh, my God, the shit that they
This
show
or
our
that,
kids,
yeah.
blah, 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 like, only on the original VHS tape. And I'm like, I have the original VHS
Let
tape.
me see this.
So I, like, looked at it and I was like, that's a dick.
Yeah.
That's
A lot of
totally a dick.
So some of it is the fact that like we're just hardwired to pick out patterns, and when we identify a pattern, we can't get rid of it. Like we can't unsee it. So even if it wasn't a dick, the fact that somebody suggested to you it was a dick makes it a dick, and you're forever stuck with dick in
Yeah,
your head
100%.
moving forward. Yeah, it's
Dude,
pretty great.
I'm like the
Dude,
guy in Superbad where he just draws, like,
Just constantly?
constantly drawing dicks.
Just like different versions, different styles,
yeah, long,
different
veiny,
sizes. Yeah.
triumphant bastards just all over the place. Dude,
That's
all right,
pretty
so-
epic right there.
I'm going to share something. I probably shouldn't, but it's funny.
Lovin'.
Oh,
Yeah. So right now,
you're drawing pictures
I'm
like
scared.
no. So my daughter, she for some reason, I think I know why, but she's really into drawing mushrooms right now. And don't have the heart to tell her. I know, and like she like draws.
It's probably the Titanic
'Cause
toe
you're-
takers logo.
Yes.
Well, it's that and like
And like
cheerleaders,
all the-
your
all the-
cheerleaders over there.
and like
hippie
Super Mario,
stuff.
yeah, and like Super Mario and the hippie stuff
I was
exactly.
gonna say right now, mushrooms are just in like
Yeah.
like clothing brands and stuff. They're
Yeah,
just everywhere.
Oh my
and I'm just like,
Mushrooms are going through a weird thing right now. Pineapple,
but it's like-
it's fucking weird.
it's an innocence thing, right? So like in my mind, I'm like, that's a dick. But I mean, to everybody else, they're like, oh, it's a mushroom.
That's
It's
a
so
cool
cute.
mushroom.
I'm like, that's a huge dick.
You're like, man.
There was a mushroom fairy at like a Renaissance fair we went to, and I was like, hey, it's a dick fairy. And she was like passing out little mushrooms. I'm like, dick fairy passing out little dicks. It's hilarious. It's great.
Where's the regular size ones?
Yeah.
Those are tiny, right, guys?
She carries around a mushroom
Necklace.
stool that's like nice, and it's like one of those pale mushrooms with a big brown head, and she just sits on it all the time.
Something about caramel or something.
It's her stool.
Oh wow, it's her stool. Okay. So the
Kids.
third Tyrannic
Buzz,
War.
buzz.
So Tyranids
Bugs,
love eating
ah.
mushrooms.
Yeah, so
Very.
the third Tyrannic War, Hive Fleet Leviathan. Marky, you wanna hit us again, or you wanna make one of the boys read it?
I can hit it unless you guys want to.
Ah, you
I'll
got
go
it.
for it.
All right, cool.
Won't embarrass us.
You don't want to read it, Matt?
I got that. Hello, everyone.
Do you do that because it's
I'm
your
gonna
British
punch.
voice?
I'm gonna punch you in the throat. Okay, go. You should be.
With my-
that's-
with
yeah,
my
that's-
tongue.
That's my lock up your daughters and shoot your sons. Love
Oh,
fest is
whoa.
coming to town.
God damn.
That's my
Hey.
version of getting
Yes.
That was good.
Nobody who listens to just the podcast knows that I do that vocal exercise. You just
That's
outed
true.
me.
I'm sorry.
Ouch.
It's a great vocal exercise that you do. I love it. Exercise.
Ecker, guys.
Exercise.
I love it.
Ector guys. Ector.
I love it. It sets the tone for the pod every time. I love it.
Pew pew.
All right. Third Tyrannic War, Hive Fleet Leviathan, only years after the defeat of Hive Fleet Kraken at Ichor 4. That's 6?
That's 4. 6
That's
would be VI.
Okay. Ichor 4. Hive Fleet Leviathan drove its tendrils up through the galactic plane. The largest and most widespread hive fleet to date. Leviathan showed clear signs of having learnt from the fates of Behemoth and Kraken. Its swarms continue to pose all-pervading threats in the galaxy.
You got to remember your weeb shit. Go back to the Final Fantasy VII cover and think of where VII, Final Fantasy VII.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
You always take it
sounds
back
like a
to
lot of
weeb
work.
shit.
that's fair. That's fair.
So Leviathan's invasion swarms were legion, its tendrils so spread out that nothing in the galaxy was safe from its advance. By the time the Hive Fleet appeared in the galaxy, the Imperium had recognized several other lesser Hive Fleets, not only splinters from Behemoth and Kraken, but others that were diverse threats on their own. As Leviathan began to make its presence known, many Hive Fleets moved in to support it, or maybe hide among this larger fleet. Leviathan also showed an alarming increase in the number of psyker bioforms, and the synaptic
Brain bugs.
network, that linked the Hive Fleet appeared especially powerful, increasing the spread and effectiveness of the Shadow and the Warp about it. Great armies and even entire Xenos species fled before its advance. Among the first to respond to this new threat was Inquisitor Kryptman, who used every resource he had gained in his long and bloody career, including the mass exterminatus of planets. He reasoned that if enough planets could be rendered lifeless in the fleet's path, the Tyranid would starve and their onslaught would be slowed. While his plan met with limited success, his methods proved too extreme for even his most Machiavellian peers, as trillions of Imperial lives had been lost in the purges. He was accused of heresy and declared excommunicate traitorous. I hate how they don't do excommunicatus traitorous. They're like excommunicate traitorous. I'm like, come on, guys. If you're going to make one word weird, make them both weird. However, the madman could not be stopped, and Kryptman next engineered the release of a gene stealer brood within the boundaries of the Orc Empire of Octarius. This lure worked, and a tendril of Hive Fleet Leviathan was drawn to these systems, igniting a ferocious war. While Kryptman had hoped that the Xenos races would annihilate one another, he was severely mistaken. The near-endless supply of orcs meant a truly alarming and replenishing amount of biomass for the Tyranids. While orcs thrive on war and battle, and as the Tyranids got harder and harder to combat, the orcs got larger and larger and continued to be better and better at killing them. Finally, this war started to spill out of the Octarius Empire into neighboring imperial sectors, who reported the massive Xenos monstrosities that were being seen on both sides.
That's terrifying.
Oops.
Yeah, fuck that.
Super
Yay.
orcs.
They're the size of buildings now. Wee.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if you were gonna touch on this one. Yeah, that's fucking
Yeah.
stupid.
And like the fact that like people were legitimately starting to report like 12, 13 foot tall orcs. Just to combat like that. Why did they exist? To combat Tyranids.
And this was the whole like fire stop thing that we kind of talked about last week, where he just destroyed like a line of planets to try.
So he destroyed hundreds of planets in a line across the galaxy to try to stop Hive Fleet Leviathan, and it kind of slowed them down. Like they were like, oh yeah, it measurably slowed them down, but like measurably slowed or measurably is like like an inch or two.
Now go fight another alien species that just breeds from the air, and good luck with that.
Right, exactly. And then he pitted him against orcs, and you literally have an endless buffet for the Tyranids, and the orcs are just like, oh great, bigger and meter things to fight. The orcs are just getting supercharged essentially, and
there's a fight
smarter
always
too.
going. Yep, there's a fight constantly going. Let's go there.
And because the Tyranids' tactics adapt and change, unlike the Imperium's tactics, the orcs can't just stay and they're like single-minded, we'll beat it until it dies. They have to start outthinking the Tyranids, which means that when those orcs get out, they're even better at fighting the Imperium because they've been fucking supercharged by Tyranids.
Thanks.
Yep, that's coming, boys.
Thanks, Krypton.
Octarius was the second of the 3 battle books for 9th edition. There's,
I believe so, yeah. Octarius.
Carcharodon, Octarius, and then Nephilim. So
I believe so, yeah.
So Inquisitor Nasir Sahassan, along with his allies, established the Cordon Imperiatra, hoping to contain the growing Xenos war. However, this wall was far from finished when the Tyranids and Orc forces began to assault it. And this was only one example of the widespread destruction of this new war against the Tyranids. The shrine world of Saint Cassiopean was turned into a slaughterhouse by burrowing Tyranids and the infamous Death Leaper. Proof that faith alone was no defense against this onslaught of tireless hunger. The hive mind had learned much from Battlefleet Ultima's ambush tactics in the past, and when the Battlefleet met with Leviathan in the Battle of Bloodstar, the fleet lost more ships than they could afford. Griffin 4, a mighty Forge World, fell to Leviathan, all its knowledge lost than the gnashing maws of the Great Devourer. So this was like a planet with STLs that just...
Gone.
Not STCs, sorry. That just fucking vanished. Just gone. All that shit's gone. The system of Higher Haven, Ninth Gift, Gossamer's Rest, and Abdrala all went dark and silent. Their last cries warned that the Tyranids' attacks were spread as far as the Segmentum Obscurus, even into the Segmentum Solar. So they were basically getting reports from all over the galaxy of this shit happening. It wasn't like before, where Kraken had been in one region and Bahamut had pretty much only attract Ultramar. They were like, oh, there's shit like 200 light years away from Earth. That's scary. It was during the Third Tyrannic War that the Great Rift tore open. As systems went dark, cut off from the light of the Astronomicon, they were easy prey for Leviathan. Even on the side of the Rift, fortunate enough to be in the Emperor's light, was besieged by demons and the warp calamities of all different kinds. Leviathan took great advantage of these reeling worlds, lunging into the scattered and panicked Imperium efforts at any form of resistance. However, even Leviathan had to deal with the demonic incursions, and as such beings don't offer any biomass substance for the Hive Fleet, the hive mind had to find ways to adapt to fight them. For if the hive mind became bound up in wars against chaos for too long, it would begin to starve. In a way, the hive mind took up the fight against chaos, although in its own extreme self-focused way, and when the biomass was either in the way or available during these battles, it was still consumed. So there's little bits here and there of people being like, oh, the Tyranids are helping us fight chaos. Oh, my leg's gone.
Yeah.
Like, essentially, like, because the Tyranid, sure, the Tyranid, the Carnifex is going to fight the demon right next to you until the demon's dead, and then the Carnifex is going to fucking eat you because you're standing next to it like a dumbass.
And it needs biomass.
Yeah.
The energy.
Yeah, that's crazy that the demons and Necrons, in a sense, are kind of like the anti-Tyranid. Yeah, when because you don't really think about that when you're like, oh, Tyranids are the big bad. Like, there's no way to stop them. They're just going to keep coming. They're kind of like the Flood. The only way to kill them is like just to
Starve them.
Yeah, exactly.
Or overwhelming force them out of existence.
Right. And even then, like, they can always regroup, gain more biomass, and come right back at you, but bigger and better.
Yeah.
Because they understand your tactics now. So it's weird because they can't really adapt to
Demons.
things without biomass, right? They can adapt to tactics, but they can, it's, what do you call it? It's a
win-loss statement. Like, essentially, it costs too much to deal
Right.
with.
It's like a war of
demons.
attrition.
Thank you. That's
Yeah.
what I was thinking. More of attrition.
Yeah. There's definitely some profit, but there's more like, because demon hosts, demon armies normally have lots of like cultists.
Yep.
And they can obviously eat the cultists, but they're not
enough.
getting any benefit from the demons. So Hive Fleet Leviathan had to come up with a way to deal with it. And we will talk about Hive Fleet Kronos a little bit later on. So we have a quote from Commander Dante, Lord of the Angelic Hosts, during the Battle of Baal. And I'm pretty sure Chuck would like to read it because he loves.
It's old man voice, Chuck.
Old man voice.
Do an exercise real quick for your
Yeah,
voice.
it's in italics. Do you have your glasses, Chuck?
He does.
Wow.
He does. Oh, phew, thank God. Thank Papa Nurgle.
Oh, I was assuming that he was going to give me shit for making him read the Blood Angel thing.
I don't give a fuck. I love talking shit.
He's like Space Marines. Yeah.
Oh,
Space Marine.
he's like, man, we get shit on the most.
Space Marine.
I mean,
Actually,
I'll give you Dante. He's pretty cool. Our light shall not gutter. Out beneath a shroud of blackness, these Xenos filth will not prevail. I vow to you, all of you who share the angel's noble blood, we will cast down these beasts. We will sunder their hosts, for their end has come. Commander Dante, Lord of the Angelic Host, during the Battle of Baal.
So here we go, Marky. The Battle for Baal.
Battle of Balls.
Battle of Balls. A tendril of Hive Fleet Leviathan invaded the Cryptus system, a system that had intended to act as a fortified shield against any threat to the Blood Angel homeworld of Baal. The system is overrun, and although Chapter Master Dante leads a desperate counterattack, possibly with Xeno's allies, nothing can halt Leviathan's advance through this system. The Tyranid swarm moves deeper into the Red Scar, bearing down on Baal. Knowing the chapter's very survival is at risk, Dante sends out a massive call to all of the Blood Angel successor chapters, and they respond by coming to Baal's aid, including the Flesh Terrors and even the excommunicated Knights of Blood. Uncountable Tyranid swarms and hive ships choke the Baal system, threatening the world and its moons, even though a massive void battle wages for several hours, pitting the combined might of several Imperial war fleets against the tide of Tyranids. Eventually, invasion swarms descend upon Baal, Baal Prime, and Baal Secundus. Baal is fortified with rebuilt defenses that date back to the Horus Heresy, manned by Blood Angels and their successors. These dug-in and embedded troops force Hive Fleet Leviathan to spawn and deploy every bioform it has at its disposal, including the Swarm Lord, which leads this assault. By the 19th successive attack wave, the defenders of Baal have been pushed to the brink. 5 chapter masters lay dead, and the doom of the Blood Angels and all their successors looms over the guttering and failing defenses. It is at this critical moment that the Great Rift tears the galaxy asunder, with many of the Hive Fleet ships being swallowed by the warp and vanishing to other places unknown. However, the battle is far from over. On Baal Prime, Demon Lord Kabanda leads a vast demonic host to butcher Tyranids and Space Marines alike. Only through the sacrifice of the remaining Knights of Blood Space Marines does Gabriel, Seth, and the last of the Flesh Terrors make an escape. Meanwhile, on Baal, Dante has exhausted all of his options, and the Blood Angels have entered a desperate last stand. Dante throws himself into single combat against the Swarmlord. He suffers ghastly wounds, but succeeds at lopping the Swarmlord's head from its shoulders. High above in orbit, just as the Hive Fleets vanished, a new fleet appeared in its place, and Reboot Gilliman himself leads the Indominus Crusade drop pod assault that sees the last of the Tyranids purged from the Blood Angels' ravaged homeworld. So again, couple of chapters just blink out of existence during the Third Tyrannic War. And again, the Ultramarines show up and save the day.
Yeah,
but you notice when the Ultramarines show up in all these stories,
it's at
right
the end.
At the end.
You know what?
What?
And they're blue and white. I wonder, now that you mention that, I wonder if fucking G-Dub is poking fun at Americans with Ultramarines.
I didn't think about it like that.
Because like the Americans showed up at the end of both world wars to save the day, and the Ultramarines always show up at the end to save the day.
No, it's a reflection of the old British Empire.
They're the Roman.
Yeah, they're not now.
I was gonna say, I believe that this Tyrannic War for like the Battle of Baal, I believe that's part of the game Battle Sector. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, Ryan. It's one of the newer games that just came out, like a tactics game.
Yeah,
I say newer, but it's probably been a couple of years now.
All the Baal stuff is new as of 8th and 9th edition. I want to say this is lore that started coming out with Psychic Awakening, but yeah, like a lot of the stuff that deals with Hive Fleet Leviathan is the shit that's happening right now in the 41st millennium. Like the 42nd, whatever millennia we're in.
Yeah.
So this war is going on while Abaddon is tearing through space and destroying
blowing up
Cadia.
Cadia.
Yeah.
So all
But,
that's happening within years of each other at the same time.
So Hive Fleet Leviathan started to attack the Imperium, and while this attack was happening, Abaddon launched the 13th Black Crusade. So the
Gotcha.
13th Black Crusade makes the Great Rift open, and during this assault on Baal, the Great Rift literally tears the Hive Fleet out of orbit. And it doesn't destroy the Hive Fleet. Like, don't get it twisted. The warp swallows the Hive Fleet and spits it out somewhere else where it just keeps attacking. Because we covered this in the last episode. Yeah. When Tyranid Hive Fleets get sucked into the warp, they don't suffer like everything else does. The Tyranids get a good fight because they fight the shit that gets on their ships.
I was going to ask about that. What you guys think about that? Because
I think it has to do with the shadow and the warp, just the way that they repress everything.
I think it has to do they have no souls.
It could be that too. It could be that too.
The warp's all about, that's where all the souls go. So,
but the demons still actively fight the Tyranids.
That's because they like to fight. Now think about it. You don't have a soul, you go in the warp, you don't need a Geller field because nothing's going to corrupt you.
I thought that was more like blanks. I thought blanks were like said to have no soul, and that's why they're.
That's why, but they actually like hurt demons,
right?
Yeah, they actually hurt demons.
Their influence. Yeah,
that's an interesting. I think it's probably a mixture of like they don't burn as brightly like the Tau, like their souls aren't as tasty, and they probably don't. Like, there's not a lot of demonic incursions where demons show up and kill a bunch of, like, wolves because wolves their souls aren't that bright. Yeah. So that's probably part of it.
They don't feed the gods.
Yeah, I feel like...
Yeah, animals don't feed the gods, essentially.
They're not... The Tyranids aren't corruptible by chaos.
I think at the same time, though, the shadow and the warp probably fucking hurts and, like, shoves demons... Well, we know it hurts and shoves demons back. We'll talk more in detail here in a minute.
But yeah, in Battle Sector, to get back to that, actually in the game, it shows the Blood Angels being reinforced with Primaris units. So like as it talks about how like the Blood Angels are getting pushed back, and like the Firstborn are like they're getting fucked up. And I think like as you progress through it, more and more Primaris units are like produced and given to you and like reinforced, so that way you can fight back against the Tyranids.
Yeah, and we'll definitely, as I mentioned up top in this episode, we'll definitely come back to a lot of this stuff when we're talking about the Space Marine chapters, and we'll get more in depth on what happened from their side. This is kind of like
The Tyranids
the Tyranids side, yeah, essentially. How and you know the things that are the big takeaways are, again, you know, again in another Tyrannic war, the third Tyrannic war, there's some chapter that was just wiped out. Like, it's just gone. That entire chapter is gone. The Tyranids ate the entire thing.
Yeah.
And that's the whole implication there is to make the Tyranids as scary as possible.
Yep. No, I get that.
All right. So, Hive Fleet Gorgon. Who wants to read my little bitty there?
I don't mind it. Hive Fleet Gorgon. No other hive fleet has been documented to possess the swift and insidious adaptability of Hive Fleet Gorgon. Its broods have been observed to hyper-adapt even between one attack wave and the next, outwitting and outpacing even the most strategically flexible prey in their eventual hideous doom.
Mostly active in the Eastern Fringe, no other race has borne more of the brunt of Gorgon's fury than the Tau Empire, who have possibly fought them for the last several centuries. However, Gorgon's fury and malice have touched all others in the galaxy. Gorgon is highly adaptable and extremely fast to respond to changing threats. They also favor toxic biowarfare, displaying a wide variety of spore mines and other microscopic spores. The swarm attacks under clouds of toxins and fogs, designed to worm in through even-sealed suits and rebreathers. Even the smallest lungful is enough to turn the lungs black and have them burst from the inside out. Venomthropes spread even more murk and spore fog. Sprog, I like that. That's spore fog, sprog.
Yeah, new word.
Screening their oncoming advances. Toxicrins and malanthropes move in as heavy reinforcements to crush any lingering resistance. All Gorgon bioforms have toxin sacs within them. As they fight and consume their prey on the field, these toxin sacs break down their victim race's DNA and begin to tailor even worse toxic attacks. Eventually, even brushing up against a Gorgon bioform can cause their foes to literally melt away. So there actually is a case in lore where even though the Termagant is dead, it's a Gorgon Termagant, and the guy touches it, and like a couple of hours later, he starts to melt.
Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah. Gorgon toxins have managed to outpace Tau science and the horrific arm race that has taken place in the Eastern Fringe. Their toxins have even overcome plague marines, specifically on the space hulk Venom Vorax. Recently, Gorgon has struck out at Agri-Worlds, and it is feared that the Praegus taint is already spreading in some Imperial systems. Hive Fleet Gorgon's colors are green, tan, and black.
I dig those colors.
Poisonous.
Yeah, I definitely like
I like that they specifically have their toxins killed plague marines, because
Yeah, that's pretty nice.
their toxins are bad enough to kill Nurgle shit. That's
pretty bad.
You know what's fucked up? That's pretty fucked up.
Yeah, that is.
So, Hive Fleet Jormungandr. Hive Fleet Jormungandr, sometimes referred to simply as the Great Serpent, hunts in the most unusual fashion, favoring subterranean movement and sudden, shocking assaults. It stays out of sight and keeps its prey guessing. Many are the armed hosts that believe the Hive Fleet Jormungandr defeated shortly before they were swallowed up from below.
The Jormungandr Hive Fleet seems to hang back, an atypical tactic for the Tyranids, and begin to use their ship tendrils to hurl space rocks at the planet. Originally, this was assumed to be a replacement for the normal planetary bombardment that prey species often use in their own as tactics against each other. And because of this, they employed a lot of their countermeasures for orbital bombardment, like blasting as many of these rocks out of the sky as they can. However, these space rocks are infested with hundreds of cocooned and protected Raveners, Molochs, and Trigons, who, when packed with the planet, wake up and burrow deep into the planet's crust. The Hive ships then begin to attack like normal, allowing the infestation below the prey world's feet to grow. So basically, after they've done this, the Hive fleet goes on the like, hey, look at me, I'm up here, attack me. The burrowing nids seek out new food and multiply, often the only hint of their activity being odd tectonic spikes or the vanishing of an outlying mine or entire stockpiles of deep resources being swallowed up in cave-ins or random chasms. Then they attack from below, swarming up to assault fortifications and garrisons, still looking to the skies and attacking the threat above. Even if the world somehow manages to break the attack and survive, the surviving bioforms just burrow deeper than they can be found or detected easily and begin the slow process of rebuilding, striking from below again and again and punishing unending cycles. So Jormungandr's colors are black and orange-yellow with like a red hint to them.
Dude, I'm not going to lie.
black and yellow.
That's one of my favorite color schemes for Tyranids. It kind of reminds me of the Spectres from StarCraft.
Ooh, good callback.
Yeah.
Dude, their tactic is like
Yeah.
when it's fully laid out, it's insidious. It's like the orc rocks, where orcs just throw rocks with teleporters at you.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like War of Worlds, where they would send the pilots down into.
Oh yeah,
that's
Good call.
pretty dope. So
I like the green. I like the
yeah,
Yeah,
the green and tan.
the Gorgon paint scheme.
I got to remember my buddy's Hive Fleet. Oh god damn, he has a cool name for it. But his color scheme is just straight black and red,
like that.
with tan highlights. He's the opposite though. So his
That's Hive Fleet Kronos.
yeah, his carapaces or carapi. I don't know what's plural.
Kronos
carapace.
is black or red and black.
But his carapaces are red, and then the skin is all black.
Yeah, that's Hive
Kronos.
Fleet Kronos.
That's
Oh, is that Kronos?
Yeah.
I thought they were like a greenish color.
No.
This is dope.
All right, Marky, up.
Yep. Hive Fleet Kronos. Faced with the sudden upsurge in demonic incursions caused by the Great Rift, the hive mind has been forced to adapt swiftly. Hive Fleet Kronos is an example of its newly refined strategy for doing battle with ethereal enemies that provide no biomass to replenish that expended in driving them back.
Excuse me, sir. I will not have you mock me. That was good, dude. I loved it.
I was trying.
So Kronos fights with an unusual strategic amount of caution. Kronos fights with an unusual strategic amount of caution, and the shadow and the warp that precedes them is much stronger than any other encountered, although it has a much smaller footprint around the Hive fleets. Their suffocating powers focused into the shadow and the warp will consume the very essence of powerful psychers. All the energy is basically ripped out of these psychers and goes right back into powering up the swarm. It's so powerful that it can even snuff out demons completely and has been observed pushing back and shrinking warp anomalies and warp storms. They focus on ranged combat, only committing to assaults when victory is assured, conserving biomass like no other. Behind their lines, feeder beasts collect the Tyranid dead for recycling with marked efficiency. So essentially, they're so focused on fighting and knowing they're not going to get biomass from the fight that they constantly recycle their own dead to produce more ranged combatants. Kronos has a symbiotic relationship with Hive Fleet Leviathan, following in the other fleet's wake to consume biomass that has been specifically left behind for it. While also spreading along the boundaries of the Great Rift, it focuses on choking off warp wherever possible. While it might be tempting to think that they could be allies against the forces of chaos, Kronos strikes out on any unsuspecting prey world as viciously and as furiously as any other Hive fleet, and will even target more psychically active prey if it's hungry enough. Attacking craft worlds and Imperium planets, especially Imperial planets that are thick with mutants and psychers alike, all to fuel their war against demons and the Great Rift. Their colors are deep purple, black, and red. So it's kind of like a black or a black purple. That's it. It's cool. They have one
I
of
like
the cooler.
that, yeah.
They have one of the cooler.
Yeah, he has
schemes.
like all of his scything talons and like hooves and teeth are all beige, and then he
That's
does.
cool. Yeah, that's a little more classic. The picture I have pulled up is like more of an interpretation. It's a cool one though.
I like how the what is it? Credits for the artist are lewd cookies.
Yeah.
Damn, dude, I want to say his Hive Fleet's like because it is a custom
it a
Hive
custom
Fleet that
one?
he made.
I
Yeah,
do
so
have
it's like
pictures.
it's a darker red, almost like a burgundy.
That's cool.
Oh,
But it's a burgundy black and then
I'll show
beige.
Marky at least.
But I want to say it's like Hive Fleet Hermes. I want to say that's what he called it. But essentially, a little bit of lore on his Hive Fleet is they essentially took out an Imperial system that had that was very Titan rich, and the two Warhound Titans that I have were survivors of his Hive Fleet, and the Death Watch essentially escaped with them. They evac them, and the two Warhounds that survived, or the last two surviving Warhounds of that system, repainted their Titans
armor to match.
Yeah, to match the colors of his Hive Fleet.
That's cool. I like
Yeah.
that. That's dope, dude. That's
So
super dope.
That's why my Death Watch have two Warhounds in their
Black and
watch. That's dope.
Yeah, I like
Those are
that a
those.
lot.
My brother's Chuck
Those are
painted them.
sick.
yeah, I got photos. I got to send you.
You gotta
Ryan.
share with
Yeah,
Ryan.
yeah.
Yeah.
Send them to me because I'll put them up on the socials and all that.
They're older photos, but yeah, I
Cool.
What was I gonna
Love 'em.
say? Oh, so what I'm
You old.
no. I'm sure there's an Inquisitor out there thinking like that last one. Oh, let's send them to the orcs.
Yeah.
Let's
Hey,
gather.
let's send them it.
No,
yeah.
let's gather Kronos, try and capture them, and we start closing off rifts.
So what happened, at least in one one aside story that I had encountered, is that Kronos had appeared and didn't attack the nearby planet at all, because there was warp shit to deal with. So Kronos dealt with warp shit. And the planet basically was like, oh, and they kind of stand down, they like stand down their defenses because they don't have to deal with the demons anymore, and but Tyranids and the demons are fighting each other. So they're like, oh, cool, we can do whatever we need to do, like
Friends.
rebuilding. Like it was more like they internally focused. They were focused on rebuilding and everything, and like part of Kronos was basically watching. And as soon as they turned their guns off essentially and like refocused their efforts into like rebuilding and shoring up the city, Hive Fleet Kronos was like, free lunch.
Yum.
Yeah. And that's the whole thing. Like, you might think Kronos is on your side, but if you're in the fucking way, or you're just a tempting snack, you're gone. Like they care about growing their numbers so they can be more efficient at fighting demons.
So my buddy's Hive Fleet is Hive Fleet Haros.
Haros, I like that. If he has any lore, you should have him send it.
Yeah, the only tidbits of lore that I've been able to squeeze out of him are essentially that of him facing off against my Death Watch when they pulled those Warhounds out of the system.
Well, I know he listens to the podcast, so we want more lore.
Yeah.
Give us more.
I tried to get him on for the Tyranid episodes, but he works when we record, so
Oh, gotcha.
it's been a little rough.
At some point, we'll get him on. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, definitely.
We'll figure it out. We'll talent it out.
I sent you some of the pics.
Toe picks.
Ooh, Hive
nice.
Fleet.
What Hive Fleet are these? Are these Kronos? Oh, these are Kronos.
Look at him in technology.
Look here, beepity boppity, and it happens.
God.
You just clap your hands together and it just shows up.
Man, these
That's
are good,
the
dude.
that's the whatchamacallit, the lictor. So I tried painting it to look like he's
Lictor, I
Start-
hardly knew her.
yeah. Trying to match his base.
Chameleon stuff.
I like that green tint.
Yeah, I do
Chameleon.
too. I like that a lot.
Well, they're poison. So it's like
I like it.
They're
green
war-
is poison.
They're anti-warp. Yeah, these are dope, dude. I'll definitely post these up on our socials. All right, Marky.
Hive Fleet Hydra. At first glance, Hive Fleet Hydra presents as amongst the smaller and less perilous of its kind. This impression is only reinforced by its hive ship's seeming contentment to lurk in the wake of larger swarms and feed on their scraps. It is only when Hydra surges suddenly forward to attack that the illusion is shattered.
Like it. So Hydra is a more recent addition to the party, following along in the wake of other larger and slower hive fleets. Able to move much more swiftly, Hydra's hive fleets are ruthless scavengers, falling on and devouring shattered splinter fleets and abandoned hive tendrils as readily as they consume other more conventional prey. They will also attack planets that have recently defeated other hive fleets, taking advantage of the weakened state of these worlds. Magos biologist Ekros van Zendrek has been able to follow this hive fleet by using stealth technology, amassing a great manner of notes and observations that the Imperium should be able to use to face this rapidly advancing new threat, at least as long as he continues to survive. Hydra has the ability to spawn massive swarms in a very short amount of time, and since they focus on eating the remnants of both hive fleets and the defending worlds, they have amassed a huge wealth of sense memory with which to use in its own adaptability. When Hydra does invade a planet, they also seed the upper atmosphere with thousands of reserved Tyrannocytes. And when a warrior dies on the planet's surface, a synaptic signal rushes through this network, sending ever greater numbers of reinforcing biowarriors to the very spot the last one died. Cut off one head, and two will grow in its place. Hydra's colors are navy blue and purple.
Very similar to like the typical Gene Stealer colors, right?
Yeah, very, very similar to stereotypical Gene Stealer colors. So Hive Fleet Hydra is super interesting because we talk about that those two lost legions, those two lost Space Marine legions essentially being established so you could do whatever you wanted. Hive Fleet Hydra originally had the same flavor. They were introduced so you could do whatever you wanted with them and have an excuse for Tyranids fighting Tyranids. In more recent lore, this is more common of a thing. Hydra does it the most. Like, Hydra's known for doing it. But a hive fleet will come across the remnants of another tendril, and it'll just reclaim that biomass. Essentially, that biomass is wasted because it's no longer massively connected to a hive fleet. So the larger hive fleet will consume it and reproduce more ships and more warriors based on that material. But Hydra does it like as a manner of course. And Hydra also swoops in on those planets that are still reeling from whatever that last battle was. So Hydra will show up, fucking eat the hive fleet that just got its ass kicked by the planet, and then the planet, which barely survived the last Tyranid attack, gets attacked by a fresh force.
I didn't hear no bell.
Yeah, right? They're the desktop tower defense of the Hive Fleet world.
Is this Tiamat? Is that how you say that?
Yeah, Tiamat. Give me one.
Hive Fleet Tiamat is heavily adapted for defensive warfare. This alone has been enough to draw puzzled and alarmed scrutiny from many prey races. From the fleet's behavior seems atypical of the usual, never-ending predatory onslaught. The more that groups like humanity's Ordo Xenos or the Seer of Craftworld Eandon learn of Tiamat, the deeper grows their dread.
So Tiamat is the growing threat that seems to be mostly content to sit in a defensive position within the Tiamat system itself. The Ordos Xenos has come to believe that the Tiamat and some of its vanguard organisms have been in the galaxy since M35. We talked about that giant bioconstruct the size of a continent in the first episode. That is a Tiamat construct. These tendrils are concentrated in this one region of space and have been content with the biomass of non-sentient planets as well as any convoys that are stupid enough to stray too close. The only time prey species have suffered majorly at the claws of Tiamat have been when they have strayed too far in or attempted specifically to purge or investigate the Hive Fleet swarms. Their chitinous armor has been reported to be as hard as diamond, and their flesh appears to be able to regenerate rapidly, as in front of your eyes. Tiamat's strength lies in its mastery of defensive actions. So costly have these assaults been that justifying them in the face of other Tyranid offensives has been difficult. However, the folly of this is becoming known as the Hive Fleet's tendrils grow and begin to push out aggressively. The Gene Stealer cult, the Choir of the Void, strips entire worlds of biomass in the form of conquest and abduction, bringing these great feasts back to their Tiamat masters. The biostructures on the world of Zyphoria have become a greater and greater threat to psychers, who have complained of the ever-growing psychic screams emanating from the region. Tiamat's colors are green, blue, and white.
I don't know how I feel about this scheme.
Oh, wait, no, that's Ouroboros. This is Tiamat. Sorry.
I don't know how I feel about this scheme. It's a little, I don't know.
White, off-white and green, not your favorite?
No, I don't think so. Like, the fleshy colors just kind of make it like,
yeah, it's a little weird. I can feel that.
That's just me too. I mean, if that's your bag, that's your bag, man. I don't know.
I think the two things that are super cool about Tiamat are, one, they've been around for fucking ever and they're just chilling. And two, the way that their Gene Stealer cult operates. The Choir of the Void they don't do the normal Gene Stealer thing where they make a planet fall and then Tiamat shows up and eats everything. They literally go out and do conquest of planets or entire systems and just like black ship the entire population essentially, and then bring it back to the Tiamat sector and just feed it to the Tyranids.
I like it. I mean,
so fucked up.
Maybe they're the heart of the Tyranids.
Yeah, like maybe these continent-sized things are the hive minds.
Yeah, they're just throwing out. We're gonna throw this fleet out there, and it's gonna come in a back way.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like, here's the home base.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. Something off-putting about the fleshy tones on a Tyranid. Like, it's just like an ugly baby or something.
You know what?
Like a freshly born baby.
Yeah.
Trust me,
I know what that looks like.
It's like a cat with no hair.
Yeah, it's like a naked mole rat.
I do like their tactics, though. Definitely interesting.
Here's their...
Maybe I paint a Tyranid up for you like that, Marky.
Please don't.
Okay.
Please don't.
Here's
Flesh.
Here's their other coloration.
That's not bad.
I like that one
like
better.
That, yeah.
Yeah, I dig that.
Yeah, the thing is, they give you coloration recommendations in the book, and then people like use those base colors and kind of go off and do their own thing.
Yeah.
I tried to not find a bunch of gaunts to show on the video.
Yeah.
By the way, if you're wondering what we're talking about, podcast listeners, there's a video version of this over on Patreon for only $3 a month. Shameless plug.
You'll see all of this.
Let's get it.
Yeah, I like that one better. That's actually a more soothing color.
Yeah, less ugly baby, more Mr. Freeze.
Ooh. Arnold?
Everybody chill.
You never even see that movie.
Wow. Speaking of the Mr. Freeze color scheme, are you ready to Ouroboros us to death?
Oh, Hive Fleet Ouroboros. The swarms of Hive Fleet Ouroboros bring death on dark wings, striking swiftly and in great numbers. Their warrior organisms fill the skies of the prey world and descend with piercing shrieks to rend and tear.
So apparently the color scheme that you guys don't like is one of the ones that people use for Ouroboros a lot too. But the traditional colors of Ouroboros are black and blue. So black carapace and blue body with like bone talons and hooves.
Well, that was Tiamat.
Similar-ish
was
to
the
this.
was the fleshy one in the color. The fleshy
right.
green.
So Tiamat is like a fleshy off green with a darker green carapace with fleshy off green
Off-white.
Yeah, off-white. Thank you. Undertone.
Skin tone. Yeah.
Skin tone, yeah.
Baby tones.
It's like
Baby tone.
like, you know how, like,
Naked mole rat.
you know how,
Oof.
what do you call
Chuck
it? Like,
naked.
off-putting the great clean one looks like?
Oh God.
Yeah,
that-
oh yeah,
Why
100%.
would you say that?
That's what Tiamat reminds me of, the great clean
So,
one.
so imperial xenobiologists and scholars theorize that Hive Fleet Ouroboros might actually be the ancient of its kind, as there are some original historical accounts by Cardinal Miramalus of the Eldar that tell of a legion of Ouroboros described as hosts of winged Xenos horrors aflamed with infernal age that descended upon the world around Thriatian Primaris. So these are the ones that have a lot of like the old rumors. I think I had kind of mentioned in brief that there were old accounts that may have stretched back to like way before what we consider to be modern 40k.
Yeah.
So others cite the primitive nature of Hive Fleet Ouroboros' organisms as an indicator of its antiquity. The organic samples recovered from battles against the Hive Fleet appear almost primordial in their rugged simplicity, especially when compared to the more refined biomorphs of Hive Fleets such as Leviathan or Kronos. They're not weak, though. The horrifying accounts of those who have battled in their swarms reveal this simplicity to be their strength. Their strategies, refined during the Tyrannic Wars, proved ineffective against Ouroboros warrior organisms. Armies expecting to exploit anatomical weaknesses or anatomical weak points or other weak spots and carefully documented instinctive behaviors and vulnerabilities that were tailored around gene toxins or the other like things that the Tyranids worked. All of those notes did shit against Ouroboros.
That's great.
Yeah. So only one prey species in the galaxy remains consistently unfazed by Hive Fleet Ouroboros. Most Oryx care little for its strategy and wouldn't recognize its global coordination if it grew fangs and bit them. As such, the greenskin warbands welcome the onslaught of the skyborn swarms of Hive Fleet Ouroboros with the same glee that they go into any other fight. So Ouroboros' main tactic is to basically blanket everything with as many flying organisms as they can, and they swarm on things. So think like sky piranhas.
Ooh.
There you go. Sky piranhas.
Have you guys ever seen the Crudes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had those like little bat piranha things that would fly around,
Yeah.
and they use like fire to distract it. I'm assuming it's
The
like little flying rippers, essentially.
the way that Ouroboros like flight attacks are kind of described as like if you've seen the newest Jurassic World or whatever, they're in the like B-17 flying fortress, and the pterodons start ripping chunks out of it until it crashes. Like that's what the Ouroboros does. They're not shooting you. They're not like literally giant fucking bat-winged
In your
Tyranids
face.
Giant
are
fuck off
ripping
pelicans.
parts off of are ripping parts off of your fucking aircraft.
Please stop.
Was that
Just
my stabilization fin? Did the stabilization fin just fall off my ship?
Yeah, fucking Maverick over here fighting
Right.
for his life.
Just
Just watch Maverick. Great movie, by the way.
It is a good. Movie.
fucking giant Tyranid lands on the back of your fucking F-14, and you're like looking back at it trying to figure out what to do
It's-
about it, and it
please
literally just rips out one of your jet engines, and it doesn't even like send you spinning away into something. It rips out a jet engine and then just goes back to flying towards somebody else.
Just
It
goes to the
doesn't give
next.
a literally doesn't give a fuck about what happens to you after it rips out the engine. It's just like, yeah, you don't need this anymore.
That's why you just hit the brakes and let them fly on by.
There you go. So Hive Fleet Leviathan, as we covered in the Third Tyrannic War earlier in this episode, is the most widespread and varied Hive Fleet, using not only the majority of the bioforms and tools at its disposal, but also the widest variety of tactics. Hive Fleet Leviathan's colors are the box art standard of purple and bone. So
They're the one that's the current in lore and everything going on in 40k right now.
they are the
active
ones
one.
that are currently
The
battling
poster
with us.
child, essentially. Was
Yeah.
there a different Hive Fleet that was the poster child before Leviathan?
Bahamut.
Which one was that? The
We'll
red
talk
or-
about him here in a second.
Oh, okay.
Loud noises.
Yeah, but blue, black carapace and red bodies.
Mommy and daddy are fighting.
Yeah, okay, I remember that.
Yeah.
That is some scary colors, man. That's like demon
Yeah.
colors, essentially.
Yeah. The blue,
like,
black carapace and the red skin. Yeah, it's freaky shit.
They fright.
So as we
They're
covered in
frightening.
our last episode, and as Marky just brought up, Hive Fleet Bahamut favors large bioforms, anything that can be considered a massive living hulking tank. Their tactics are very similar. Simple brute force, overwhelm the enemy with larger and larger bodies. Their colors are blue-black carapace on top of red skin. And oddly enough, so Hive Fleet, they who thirst, my Hive Fleet, operates with a mixture of Bahamut and what would you say, Marky?
the Kraken or
Kraken?
Kronos? I thought it was one
Yeah.
of those.
Well, I used to use Kraken rules because Kraken used to allow you to roll three for advances. You would roll 3d6 and you would pick the highest.
Right.
But they don't do that anymore. I mean, they still have a good advanced rule, but yeah, I pretty much play a mixture of rushing small shit into your face and backing it up with large monsters.
With big bugs. Yeah.
I-
Gotta love big bugs.
Very-
You always have to have
Phew.
big bugs.
Yeah. I very much favor Gene Stealers over Termagants and Hormagaunts, but I think I'm going to start fielding more Termagants and Hormagaunts. Gene Stealers are definitely have a place in my heart, but I think it's time for a
Not-
change. I've been
not
running
do-
Gene
not
Stealer
doing
core
it
for a
for
long
you?
time.
Not
They're
doing
not
it
as
for you
good.
now?
They're not as good as they were in 8th. They just aren't.
So more big bugs because those are frustrating.
I just love big bugs. Like it's
I think everybody does.
aesthetic. It's the aesthetic of the army. Just having giant bugs is fun.
So
Yeah.
frustrating to play against, though. It's like, I did this amount of wounds. Cool, I got 6 more. Oh, and now I'm regenerating.
Yeah,
Uh,
but as Marky can attest, Kev has taken out a Moloch in like one shot. So a Moloch should be, in my opinion, should survive against a fucking Sergeant's plasma pistol a little bit longer than one turn. But they're supposed to burrow attack when they come up, and for some reason they can't. I'm like, what the fuck? Do not fluff them out as they eat people from below, and then be like, put them 10 inches away from the nearest unit you can assault. Like that's not burrowing up and eating the unit from underneath. That's normal deep strike.
Didn't they used to do damage in one of the previous editions when they came up?
They do. They still do it now. You just have to you have to shenanigans it. You have to shenanigans it.
It's always fun. For some reason, they remind me of. You guys ever see Powerpuff Girls?
Yeah,
Yes.
the evil cat thing with the black
Yeah.
armor.
I
Is it a cat thing?
thought it was him. They refer to
Him?
it as him, but it's
Yeah.
basically like a little Satan dude with crab claws.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Tutu.
I'm apparently getting. I know exactly what you're thinking. I was thinking it's color schemes, but the Samurai Pizza Cat's art for some reason.
Oh,
Oopsies.
The second time I've mixed up weird things in my head today.
they really remind me of Mojo Jojo.
Oh, Jojo. Yes. Yeah. That'll wrap it up for our third episode on Tyranids. We will be back for a round table and episode 3.5, where we'll talk a little bit about the bioforms that make up the army and how they're used. It'll also give us some fun opportunities to jump into the body horror and Cronenbergian side of all of the monsters that make up the Tyranid bio fleets. Want to get into contact with us about lore, your short stories, or even your spooky stories? Reach us by email at underthehiveofmadness@gmail.com or at grimdarkgaming@gmail.com. You can also get a hold of us by joining our Discord community. Not only can you talk to us about lore, hobby, and tactics of Warhammer 40k, but you can get involved on topics spanning things from the Age of Sigmar to the old world of Warhammer, to Epic, to the video games we might be playing at this exact moment. Pretty much Darktide, but there's a couple others mixed in. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Not only do we now have an official Instagram for Grimdark Gaming, but we also have an official Instagram for Under the Hive of Madness podcast. or find us over at www.underthehiveofmadness.com. Help the podcast grow by liking and reviewing us wherever you get your podcast fix. We are at home here on Spotify and Anchor FM, but we're also available through Apple Podcasts, Google, Stitcher, and many, many more. If there's a podcaster that you enjoy and we're not there yet, let us know and I'll be sure to get us registered. You can also find us on Patreon at www.patreon.com/underthehiveofmadness. All Patreon members get access to a video podcast with minimal editing so you can see our beautiful faces and hear all of our amazing blunders. There's also a video version component. We bring up a lot of pictures and other things related to what we're talking about. We show off models and color schemes and some of the official art as we're talking. All Patreon levels also get access to our quarterly painting contest. Plus, we have perks at higher levels, and we all suggest that you guys head on over and check that out. Madam Bexy's Flackenjack, home to the Tuesday third shift 2-credit ice bomb. A shot of super chilled Devil's Reef Amasec plunged into a fresh red squig. All you need to get those juices flowing. Always remember, tipping isn't just another district lost somewhere in the Amity Hive. They can't stop our signal no matter how deep underground they force us or how large of a shadow they try to cast over our light. We are your light of truthiness in the uncertain, frosty cold of the long night, 665.66 UHMR Chemrat Radio. Reminding all of you Chemrats, Hive Mice, and Sump Ghoulies to keep those dials fixed right here, same ratty frequency, for a dose of the same ratty-ass attitude.
Remember, Rico, you may kill bugs good, but a four-armed emperor may give you a run for your money.
Motherfucker. I really like that one. I realized the double